Well, Happy New Year. It's that time. I don't know if this will be right before the new year or after, but bottom line is, we're planning all year long. And January's kind of a big month because seasons are ending. I still have a deer tag. We'll talk about that at the end here. So I'll be hunting during January, but at the same time, over here in Minnesota, we're done. And it's a great time to get out and start working on the habitat. And so I have to be very organized because even though I have the time to do these things, it takes a lot of time. And that's what people say, oh, you have private land, that must be easy. And be careful what you wish for, because most people in their normal course of their life would not have the time to work on the land that we do here, that it takes to do it right. We have a lot of acreage here in Minnesota compared to even what we do over in Wisconsin. That's 30 acres of cover, 10 acres of fields and food plot area, and switchgrass, and literally 15%, 20% of the work that we do here. So there's a lot to do between both of them. It's overwhelming. So I need to keep on task. I need to really look at. And so January is one of those we're really looking at. I even talk about number 3 here, major setup plans. What are we doing with a stand location? We had a very successful stand location that we set up this year that Jen and I shot nice bucks on with our bow. In fact, mine was a 3rd or 4th day of gun season in Minnesota with my bow. But that took a lot of work. It took a lot of work. Dozer access, quarter mile in, seeding that road, making sure that it didn't erode away. We put a 300-gallon water hole down there, which meant filling it 3 times with our setup in order to get water in it in the first place. I put up trail cameras down there, mock scrapes, and we made a big bedding area where we come in from the other side. And so the bedding area work started early in the winter last year, and then everything we did leading up to that, including at one of the last steps, was seeding around the water hole because we don't want any mud. And so we want that to be nice and fresh and green, hold the soil, not wash away. That makes sure that we don't have any mud opened up and cracking mud for that midge, for the EHD midge. And so very different because our tanks don't have mud. Normal water holes in the woods do. So that dry and receding cracked mud is what holds the EHD in late summer. The EHD midge allows it to propagate, and that's what increases the risk. So there's no study done, I'll openly say that, but it makes sense since we don't have dry and cracked receding mud like natural water holes do, then a tank water hole would be less likely, at least when it comes to EHD, spread the risk of EHD and killing our deer herd because we have a bunch of water holes. There's no dry and receding mud. But bottom line is, one of the things we turn to and we love, we have piles of pallets out here that we use for our seed company that we get in and out with our seed company. And so what that means is we have all that ingredient that we use for habitat and building those rabbit houses and rabbit huts. So a lot of people ask how we do that, and what we're doing, it's pretty simple. This is a fun thing. I like rabbits. My son Jackson is about 9 months old right now. It'll be cool to see him go out rabbit hunting someday. Let alone if we have a crew, the Hunt Wise crew might be in here during the wintertime sometime and we'll do a rabbit hunt. Bottom line, it's just fun to have them on the property, and I like to protect them. I always look at it like, if you have really abundant small game populations, why do those coyotes need to pick on your deer? Pick on your fawns. If they can easily capture a squirrel, rabbit, grouse, whatever it might be, if you have lots of small game on your property, there's lots of targets for them compared to your even songbirds, whatever it might be, compared to the deer on your property. So you lower the risk of coyote predation, predators in general, on your deer when you have abundant small game populations. That's one of the reasons we do this. But our habitat, it's adjacent to our switchgrass. We have 13, 14 acres of switchgrass out here in Minnesota that's established. A lot of our trails right now, even up by the pole building, we have trails coming out of those pockets of switchgrass that are smothered in the snow. So you might have an area that's 3 to 4 feet long. I haven't even shown Dylan this, but it's 3 to 4 feet long, 2 feet wide, and it's about 2 feet high. It's covered in crusty snow, and rabbit tracks go right into it. And from there, they go to the next one. It's almost like having dozens of small brush piles on your property where deer can go in and out, or rabbits can go in and out, let alone pheasant and other critters. But bottom line is, we like that habitat. We take 3 of those pallets, and I'm not an artist. I'll never claim to be. We're taking those pallets, we're stacking them on top of each other, and then we're taking trees, hinge cutting them over the top, cutting them, pushing them over, So that top is over the top like this. It's alive, it's a hinge cut, so it's still growing. So we're cutting, then we're cutting larger trees usually over than that. And what we're doing is we're making a pretty big area that is open to the sunlight. What that does is allows, they're on the edge of our woods. It allows the sunlight to spill back into the woods. It's right next to the switchgrass, so that makes great doe bedding because it's on our edges. So that's the beginning of our bedding areas, you know, going in from there. So that rabbit hut, yeah, it's important. I like the small game, but at the same time, it starts to set the tone for everything that we do going into the woods and allowing that sunlight to come in and increase regeneration and hold those does, those family groups closer to the edge, which allows more of our space in the middle to be taken up by bucks. So that rabbit habitat is fun. It's cool to go out and do. It probably takes us 45 minutes, half hour to do each one. And usually have a helper pushing over. And I think Jen was, probably 8 months pregnant. We made one of the last ones in the springtime before Jackson was born March 30th. So it was right around that time, early March, mid-March, that she was making one along with shed hunting and everything else. But the second thing, bedding and browse. Kind of like the rabbit habitat I'm talking about here, we're working on the outside in. What that means is there's a lot of areas, the top of this hollow right in, you could look right into the woods. And we can even look at it and say, that doesn't look like good deer habitat, you know, in the woods, it's too open. So we have cuttings on the inside here and there. We have a lot of cuttings on the outside, but this hollow is an area that's lacking because we don't hunt it. So, but it's an area we really want to hold more deer in. So that starts by knocking down that timber that's facing the sunlight on the outside of the edge. That develops that thick wall around this corner that we have. It's a big corner. It's probably 400 to 500 yards this way, and then on the back side, it's several hundred yards that way. And so we already have switchgrass there, flanked on both those sides. We have 3-year-old switchgrass and 1-year-old switchgrass. Next year will be 4 and 2. So that's going to be sufficient. Now we have a lot of aspen on that edge. That's that early successional growth. So we need to cut that aspen completely. You cut aspen completely, let it fall into the field. And then we'll go in and start working on those hardwoods. Some of those hardwoods will be complete drops. We're looking at junk timber with big canopy to make a big impact. We're putting that structure on the ground with a log on the top that holds deer. And then the sunlight hitting the ground increases regeneration. And then if we have time, we'll go back and we'll hinge cut in the process, which usually we do a little bit, because that's a way to take down some of those medium-aged trees with a big canopy, say like a maple or a crooked oak or junk oak. We'll hinge cut that, put it down, and then that's great for deer too, great for browse, great for cover, rabbits, whatever it might be. And then also, now that we're working on that edge, that increases turkey nesting area. So we're working on grass area, woodland regeneration, cuttings, and then the woods, that in-between areas where we see a lot of nesting turkey populations take place, and that's kind of common if you look up turkey management. It's crazy because some people have so many turkeys they don't know what to do with them, and then some areas don't have a lot of turkeys, and you could look at if you have clean fields, clean edge, into open hardwoods, and you don't have a lot of area for nesting, then you're not going to have a lot of turkeys. Sometimes you do because nesting is done somewhere else, and then they come over. Here, we've been able to see we have a lot of different flocks of turkey now, a little bit larger going into this time of the year than we've ever had, and I think it's probably as a direct result of they have more protected nesting. We actually need to hit our nest predators like the possums and raccoons would be something we need to remove to really increase that, because they're robbing all those turkey eggs. But bottom line is, working from the outside in, that supports a lot of different kind of wildlife, sets up where those does should bed, and then create those bedding pockets on the inside. Think of those pockets, whatever you're doing, whether you're hinge cutting medium pole age timber, you know, up to 6-7 inches, you hinge cut that waist high. You might make something that's 20 by 20 feet in an area like that. And then you're going on 30-40 yards, you're doing it again, 30-40 yards, doing it again. So you're not cutting down the wood, you're cutting down 10-15% in pockets in the areas you want to hold timber or what you want to hold deer. What that means is the areas that you're accessing on the outside, where you have to actually walk right along your borderline, you're not cutting, because you don't want deer there right at your feet when you're walking in. So these are more your interior areas, and then on the outside you're working on that thick edge with switchgrass. We have that screening, so we can actually walk by that at 40 yards away, not spook a doe family group that's right on the inside in that area because it's so thick and we have that screening available. But we're not putting those deer right at our feet, meaning making those cuttings and hardwood regeneration 5-10 yards away as we're walking in. So that's what we're really looking at and making those plans, bedding and browse, kind of like where do we have holes on the property? Where do we need to fill those holes? I can think of several areas on the property. Dylan, the back 67, right up here at the top of the hollow. I'd like to cut quite a bit over by between where the 38 meets the 67 by the power line, blade plot, down in that area. We have more cutting. We have more cutting down at the bottom, in the middle, all the way through. We're just filling in those holes. I'm one person usually cutting, and no one else has cut bedding areas in the property so far. I've had a little of assistance from Dylan or Dante, people like that, but it takes a long time, and we're continuing to work on that. Number 3, major setup plans, and this is where this January is so critical. So last year, Jen and I looked at down in a corner of our property, and we said, this is good access because it's open timber and it's a depression. It's a draw coming in. So the thing about draws is depending on which way the wind's blowing, in fact, this draw goes up to the west. We can walk down inside of it, so we're a little bit more hidden, like just think of a giant ditch going downhill. Open timber where turkeys typically roost, so I don't want to cut that timber. Then we get down the bottom, we start to get into that edge of that thicket. So perfect spot to get down to safely to a stand location. And when the wind in the morning comes over your left shoulder, a lot of times it'll go back up over your right shoulder, and that goes right up that draw. If it comes straight above us and goes, it'll go right up that draw. In the evening, if we have high winds, which that happens to be the northwest out of our left shoulder, or west, northwest, or west, it ends up blowing back up in that draw. It takes the path of least resistance, runs around that corner. So we can hunt that in the evening, we can hunt it in the morning, we get a lot of use out of it. We start planning that now. And what we did is we started cutting that bedding area. Dylan has video of B-roll of cutting that bedding area down there. We need to make it bigger, even thicker this year. We need to make a road through it so we can connect the 2 roads. We needed a way to get down there quietly. So we had Jared, he's a local excavator. He came out, he runs a wildlife service, and he came in and created that road for us down there. It was about a quarter mile. We had to seed that road. And then we put that water hole down there, a 300-gallon, seeded that all around, mock scrape, and that's right on the edge of the bedding area. And when I talk about to people, when I mention I want to hunt the backside of the bedding area, that's the backside of the bedding area. The deer aren't coming from our side. That's the backside of the movement. That's the backside of the bedding area. I mean, we hunt them right up against that edge. The deer feel comfortable going into that water hole, go back in, or they stay in that thick draw. So we're just hitting that, but we're not walking into it. A lot of people want to go sit right in the middle of the bedding area, and they say, what's a good win for that? Well, nothing. You're going to spook deer. You do it one time, you don't get to live to hunt another day. So we hunted that just a handful of times and shot 2 monsters, a couple 5-year-olds. They're at least 4 to 5 years old. One was 5. I think Jen's was 5 years old too. It was a big bruiser, dressed at 220 pounds, right around there. So big bodied deer and mature deer. And that planning all took place right now. So planning took place, and then we're going out there, and like I said, with the bedding area and browse, that's where we started. One of the spots we started because we knew it enhanced that bedding area and be a good sit. So we're looking for places like that to give us a good sit that have the potential, because it has good access. We'll create access more if it's appropriate, but a lot of planning goes into just that one setup. And I'm looking for those special setups on the property where we have a lot of stands and blinds out here, but we tend to focus on those really high quality 10 or 12. And I'm always looking for that next really high quality one. And that planning takes a lot of planning, and it needs to start right now. So flagging, really start. This is so nice when it's open, we don't have leaves. And you start flagging, you could flag now, February, March, but the bottom line is you're flagging before leaf out, whether you're expanding plots in April, May, creating travel corridors or bedding areas, always good to flag it first. And mark it, because you have the intention of doing it right now or this weekend. You might not do it for 2 months. You just take all that guesswork. You already planned, you already said this is a good spot. Next time you go in here 6 weeks from now, you just go into the flags, color code them if you want, and say I'm going to cut right there. So pretty easy then at that point. I know a lot of times, even clients we have, especially the fly-ins, that last morning, that last day, they'd say, hey, can you help us flag? So we go in and flag these spots, kind of flag it off, or put a flag in the middle of where to do that work. And it's very helpful to people, not only clients, but us too. Trail clearing. This is a time we do that, I guess, before any of this, because we have so many trails on the property, and we take the side-by-sides out. We have tracked machines with the Camso tracks. So we're going out there, and that's why you always see the chainsaw on the side of the Polaris, because with all the trails, there's always blowdowns. We haven't been to them since early, before season started on most of these trails. So you can imagine there's gonna be a lot of blowdowns because the trails we do use during the season had blowdowns on them, let alone the miles of trails that we didn't get into. So we're gonna have a lot of blowdowns to clear. And this is the time to do that because we like, in the off season, I don't believe that these areas should be sanctuary 365. I believe they should be sanctuary about 3 to 4 weeks before the season begins, throughout the season. And then right after the season ends, we're going in there and enjoying the property. We go on cruises, we take friends, family out there, and we enjoy doing that. That's something we enjoy doing as a family. We go driving around the property. So clearing those trails, we enjoy doing, and it adds to our enjoyment going throughout the winter time too. And then finally, hunting. One of my chores during January is I still have hunting to do. So if I was hunting in a certain area, right now we had Barry, one of our monster bucks, come back. He was gone since September. Don't know where he goes. We usually have more deer coming in. He's one of those that leaves. And Dylan, can you think of another one that really left or didn't, like 7-4, we didn't see much. I think we have 1 or 2 videos of him. But other than that, Barry is one that just completely disappeared. And I don't know of any other ones that were like that.
Lucky's still around?
Oh yeah, we got a picture of him last night.
How about
Bo?
LL Beams, has he been around?
We have not seen LL Beams for about a month, 3 weeks, right around there.
Hopefully he's doing all right.
Yeah, we saw him like early December sometime, that first week, somewhere around there. And we haven't seen him since. But he was around almost the whole year. I mean, he was around when you're sitting with Tyler.
Yep, that's right.
For the hunt winter, the end of September. But he was around up through early December. But yeah, most of them are, Bo we just had pictures of yesterday or the day before. So we have a lot of those. But Barry is one where we have them. If I was hunting, I'd be over on what we call Jim's plot, the Blade area, Ben, and then also the logging plot. That's that area that he's in. So I'd be hunting over there and would be avoiding that area for all this stuff. So you look at a lot of this stuff is after the season ends. And of course, over in Wisconsin, we're at bow tag. We're not doing any of this. Now, I can say right now we have a doe season over there. We don't need to shoot any does on that property. And so there's just not enough of a population. We just don't need to do that. I shoot does when I have to. That's part of it. It's almost like a harvest of picking some apples. Pretty easy to go shoot a bunch when you need to. I've shot up to 9 in 1 year. And then when we don't need to, we don't. It's pretty easy. I don't just go shoot them for the fun of it. I shoot them because they need to be shot to lower the population. And this year we don't. And so right now we have a holiday hunt, December 24th through January 1st. And I get backfires on the DNR sometimes because I'm one of those that I would have been hunting otherwise for my buck tag, and I might have filled a doe tag if I thought there were enough does at that time. I'm just not going to be out in the woods till January 2nd, till this season's over. And that means we can go out there, out in the woods and hunting. I can go out there with side by side. I can make some tracks up and down the hill in the snow and make sure it's easier to walk. It's about a 40-minute walk up to a lot of those stand locations. I can change a few trail cameras around, change some batteries, observe what's left in the population, get out of there, and I'm still not even hunting for a week. So I can make some noise and get in and out and really look at that. But that's kind of that hunt. And we'll talk about our how to hunt in January, but I can guarantee you, and we're seeing it right now with some of the bucks chasing does around here. When you get to the end of December, early January, you get that third rut. And that's a really cool time to be in the woods. Again, the second rut is one thing. Third rut is a little bit less than the second. Second rut is a lot less than primary. But there's still that flurry of activity, and that's where you can see 7 bucks in one day or one sit just because there's one hot doe or fawn in the area that they're really keying on. So we've had a buck come in that time of year just making scrapes and rubs all the way in, breaking stuff, and it's a cool time of the year to be out in the woods. And so we'll hunt a little bit of rut, might even sit in the morning because it's going to be that morning. I see a lot of warm mornings this time of year. There's a lot of deer usage. If it's super cold in the morning, then a lot of times they're laid up bedding and they're conserving their energy. And then it might be more like a mid-morning to late afternoon type thing where you see them moving through. But we'll be hunting near bedding areas a lot. And we're looking for bedding area to bedding area movement. We'll be looking in the locations where you know there's distant food sources, and we'll be hunting a quarter mile to a half mile away from there. We expect to see large groups of deer coming through, and we're certainly going to be monitoring them and going to check all that out right now. So a lot to do in January. This kind of sets the table for the year. Make sure you just start to get some stuff done. Even if you say, well, I'm going to cut 10 bedding areas this year, just go out and cut one. Start checking those things off the list. It's kind of like videos. Dylan and I, we've only shot 2 today. That's on me. But at the same time, It's once we start getting through 1 or 2 or 3, they start moving through. Dylan wants to shoot 7 or 8 today, so we got a lot to do. We'll get on to the next video right now. Try to get some chores done in January, and it's amazing how just a little work each month will help you achieve your goals for 2023 and give you a great deer season right now coming up this year. Hey, I'm really excited to introduce to you our Hills and Thermals web class. It's something we worked on all year. We're trying to put lots of facets of scouting, aerial imagery, diagrams on the whiteboard to really teach you how the wind moves through hills and how you should find bedding areas, how it relates to deer movements in general, how that relates to, this is a bedding area stand, this is a food source afternoon stand. We really tried to put this together and offer you a complete picture of how to navigate hills and find better success consistently where you hunt.